Right, hello everyone, and hello everyone online. Thanks everyone for coming today. Today we have my old supervisor, Damian Murphy. Damian Murphy is Professor in Sound Media Computing at the Audio Lab in the School of Physics, Engineering and Technology at the University of York, where his research focuses on the development and creative application of immersive audio and virtual acoustic modelling. He's an active sound artist and the director of the XR Stories Creative Industries R&D Partnership and the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council XR Network Plus project, both exploring the next generation of convergent, immersive and interactive media technologies for the UK's creative industries and wider digital economy. And it's here today to talk to us about his project XR Stories. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Dave.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for the invitation and the kind introduction, and it's nice to be back in Salford again. I can't remember the last time I was here. It was a while ago, certainly, and there's been some building work since, certainly, and lots of other things have happened in the meantime as well, haven't they, like global pandemics and all that kind of thing. So it's really nice to be back. And again, the Transpennine Express gods were kind this morning, so let's hope they are on the way home later on. So Mark's done the introduction. I'm here to talk about XR Stories today and our related projects at the University of York. So this has kept me busy over the last 6 years or so, and I thought it's a good opportunity to reflect and disseminate on some of what we've done. There's not going to be much acoustics or audio in it, but I have crowbarred some of our audio projects in at the end, given that, you know, I know what the audience is going to be interested in. But this is also an opportunity to reflect on what this project has been about as part of a much wider initiative to support R&D for the creative industries across the whole of the UK. And I know it's something that some colleagues at Salford here are certainly interested in, whether maybe in this department or not, I'm not sure. So what do I mean by this? So there's going to be a bit of reflection on what we've done, how we've done it, lots of upbeat videos, and then a little bit about the projects that have emerged from this and what we're doing in the future, with a little bit of audio as well. So creative industries in the UK, these are the figures are from 2019. They're a little bit out of date now. So the creative industries in the UK, a little bit of politics in terms of its value to the economy is greater than aeronautical, aerospace, and pharmaceutical combined. So a significant part of the UK economy in terms of what they contribute, in terms of value, and you can also see here the sectors, the official government sectors for what the creative industries are, which are a bit of a poor fit, to be honest, in terms of how the creative industries actually works. And the biggest is IT, software and games, which is the games industry, but encompasses a lot of other things besides, and film and TV is big, of course, and probably a lot bigger now than it was when these figures came out. And also in terms of exports, again, exports in terms of the creative economy and the creative industries in the UK, it's things like, that's my first year's this, blank faces, but it's like Harry Potter and it's James Bond and it's Doctor Who and it's Top Gear and it's Dua Lipa. It's, you know, all the big sort of, you know, IP that we create in the UK and then sell globally. And it's also all the supporting infrastructure to support that as well, how we make this content, the skills of the workforce that are used to do that. And it's why so much of the world comes to the UK to deliver and design content, particularly in terms of film and TV industry. And it's also about the jobs in the UK. And one of the challenges of the creative industries in the UK, you don't do too bad this side of the Pennines, obviously. Manchester is a really big hub for the creative industries. But if you're not in London and the South East, where you can see where the majority of the jobs are, and this is, you know, this is an issue for all of our students as well, working in the north of the country, is where they go for jobs in this area, if that's what they're interested in. There's a significant imbalance, 5.8% in Yorkshire and Humber. And so there's a role for us to try and rebalance the economy of the creative industries in the UK. But the biggest challenge is that for growth, listen to me like a politician, for growth in the economy, one of the key drivers of that is R&D. And R&D for the creative industries is not as well defined as some of the other larger areas of engineering that I've already discussed, like pharmaceuticals and aeronautical and so on. And the other challenge is that the creative industries in the UK is predominantly driven by small to medium-sized enterprises. So if you want to negotiate with government over a particular thing to help your industry, it's much harder for the creative industries than it is, for instance, for Jaguar Land Rover to go and negotiate a huge deal for a battery factory somewhere down in the southwest of England. So the Creative Clusters programme was a drive to try and support the creative industries through R&D, leveraged through UK universities. So the Creative Industries Clusters programme started in 2018, so there was about an 18-month run up to it, and it's about to undergo its second phase. So that's going to happen at some point this year. And you can see it was money that came from Theresa May's government, from what was then the industrial strategy. So it was money that was kind of badged as AI, but it wasn't. Some of it was given to the Arts and Humanities Research Council to support R&D directly for the creative industries. Some of it was given to Innovate UK for something called the Audiences of the Future programme, what immersive experiences were going to be about, and how we could, again, using appropriate political language, level up our industries in terms of the opportunities and challenges of immersive content and immersive content making. So there was significant pots of funding, university-led and industry-led. And this is what the shape of the Creative Clusters programme ended up being like after about 80 applications to start with. So if we go top to bottom, in-game is at Dundee. Abertay University is the UK's biggest games cluster. Creative Informatics, Edinburgh University is based on data with the creative industries, given that Edinburgh is a city of many, many, many festivals. And so there's a lot of data that helps to drive and support the industry in that region. Future Screens, Northern Ireland. What's Northern Ireland most famous for now in terms of creative industries? Game of Thrones, exactly. They've built a massive film industry on the back of that, and a huge investment is going in there. So theirs is a sort of screen-based one. Exos Stories, you're going to hear about that. Future Fashion Factory in Leeds. Leeds University, I didn't know this is based on textile ultimately, and the industry of Yorkshire and the mills and so on. So that's what their work is about. It's about the future of the fashion industry. Cluster in Cardiff, again, a very media-focused hub. Bristol and Bath. Bristol got a big sort of interest in the creative industry. They've got the My World project at the moment, supporting again next generation. And Bath, the Camera Centre, another big centre for media technology. And then under the teams thing is Business of Fashion and Textiles Technology in UAL in London, and Story Futures, which is at Royal Holloway. So most of them are technology and media focused, with 2 in fashion and 1 in data, which is kind of interesting to see what the mix is like. And if anybody here is interested in thinking about a creative cluster, look at the map of the UK, where there are no creative clusters projects at the moment. And that's what AHRC hope to address, the geography and the sectors that have been explored, or not explored in this case. So we had to define for this project 2 things. We had to define what our sector was we were working in and what our region was. So for us, it was Yorkshire and Humber. Yorkshire and Humber is made up of 4 different regions: North Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, South and the Humber, and they're very different. West Yorkshire is home to Leeds, Bradford, South Yorkshire, Sheffield, Humber, Hull. North Yorkshire, York is the biggest city, so it's quite a rural area, so quite different. So a very different makeup of what our region is about. It consists of about 6 million people. Same size as Scotland or Norway. It consists of about 6,000 employees working in the creative screen industries and about 600 businesses. So this data we needed to be able to make the case for why we should have a cluster project based in Yorkshire and Humber in this particular area. And again, from the data, we were able to look at how the screen industries, film, TV, games and related media were growing in our region, compared to other parts of the country where there's a big investment in the screen industry, particularly South Wales. Doctor Who has driven things there, and coming up sort of on the inside now is the West Midlands and Birmingham. So, but you can see for us, we've got significant growth over the last few years prior to the clusters programme starting, and our data showed that there was the opportunity, there was the network, there were the companies who could take advantage of what we were going to offer. And our partnership was between University of York as the university lead and then 2 other industry bodies. Screen Yorkshire is the regional screen industries in Yorkshire and Humber. They support film and high-end TV making and production across the region. They have an investment fund that they use to support productions in the region and to bring productions to the region, and they are supported in turn by the BFI. And so they had all the data that we needed to make a case as to what the screen industries were about in our region, why R&D was needed to support some of the innovative technology-focused screen industries companies in our region. If you're not familiar with Screen Yorkshire's oeuvre, then here's their show reel to give you a sense of some of the things that have been made in our region.
Here we go.
You back.
Let's trot forward.
Oh, yes.
Cheers for today. It's been the best day of my life.
Oh, you are more than welcome.
It is bigger than you or I, or any of us.
It's been a really first-class financial year.
Ah, there you are.
It has and will continue to unlock doors just from one experience with them.
It's definitely pushed that step further.
Gives you a chance to be part of the industry, and as well as that, you get to make something that you're actually proud of.
It helped me be more open to meeting new people.
I literally never forget working on the Screen Yorkshire project. It was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done.
3, 2, 1, go.
Blimey. Quite something, isn't it?
I have lots of stories.
I know what you mean.
Something has changed, girl. Are you ready for this?
There's no place on earth like it.
Apart from maybe Lancashire and this side of the Pennines, obviously, but you know, Yorkshire, fly the flag. So hopefully you've seen some of the programmes there that you know, Screen Yorkshire have worked on or supported over the last few years. Their biggest investment was actually in Peaky Blinders. They took a punt on Peaky Blinders long before it became a thing of the West Midlands. I say that as someone of the West Midlands myself as well. So that's the biggest return on investment that they've had. The three key pillars for growth for Screen Yorkshire were a content fund, which they've got, and an evergreen content fund, which they've invested in Peaky Blinders and many other things. Infrastructure, so studios and studio support, and that's something that we've helped to deliver on. Skills, so you saw some of the how they develop skills in the region as well. And then we added a fourth pillar, which was about R&D for growth of industries, particularly tech-focused industries in our region. So that's Screen Yorkshire mainly focused on film and high-end TV. We have another organisation called Game Republic that is our own cluster of games companies, mainly in Yorkshire, but also extending into the north of England as well. And so Game Republic have been really important for us as well to tap into their network. And so the core of XR Stories was University of York, Screen Yorkshire and the BA5, but we also then had partners from a lot of the other Yorkshire universities who wanted to sort of benefit from the opportunity that we hoped to land for the region, which indeed we did. So they're all kind of adjunct partners on our project. And our aim is to establish Yorkshire and the Humber Screen Industries Cluster as the UK Centre of Excellence in immersive and interactive digital storytelling. And that's what we've been working on over the last 6 years. At the heart of what we do is storytelling. I'm telling you a story about our storytelling, and it's absolutely fundamentally based on research and industry working together. And that's research from the university. There's some of our audio lab research. There's some of the research that my colleagues have done in the Department of Theatre, Film, Television, Interactive Media on non-linear storytelling and the technology to enable that. And it's how our research and industry can connect. And that's something that we've done in the audio lab and elsewhere at our institution for a long time. But everything changed in terms of how we did it when XR Stories came along. We thought we went in with a recipe that was going to work. We were very, very wrong, and I had to change what we did. So, as I've already said, like a good, you know, sort of politician of some sort, growth is important. Economic growth is important for our region and for the UK more generally. I should also say, working in the creative industries, economic growth brings along with it social and cultural growth as well. So very, very important. It's not just growth for the sake of making money. We get the other benefits of investing in the creative industries. We get the programs, we get the connection, we get the community, we get the audiences, we get the storytelling that tells us something about ourselves and also works as very good soft power over the world because it gets exported everywhere. So this is the typical growth of a creative business in SME as it starts and scales up. And here we're thinking about it in terms of how they might work in the creative industries, but it's pretty much unique to most, or the same as most SMEs and their sort of growth if they are successful. And this also comes from a government paper that came out last year called the UK Creative Industries Sector Vision. And when we set up, we thought we'd be doing this. Publications, it's the bread and butter of academic research, seed funding for companies to come and work with us, and collaborative R&D, these kind of things we've done forever. And we rapidly realised actually we needed to do a lot more. And so that's what we've ended up doing. We've had to put a whole scaffolding around how industry engages with our colleagues at the university and the XR Stories project as a whole. And so we've done an awful lot of work in terms of getting people into the industry through skills and training development in terms of R&D, how you use things like Unity, how you understand what immersive technology is and XR production and virtual production and so on. Yes, we've done a whole bunch of seed funding, but we've also had industry fellows, research fellows. We've got a lab that people can come and use now. Collaborative R&D, various challenge calls that we've run over the last 6 years, internship opportunities for our students to go and work with industry, and then some more strategic things in terms of how we work with key partners across the region in the UK. So yeah, I was quite naive when we started. Can it be fine? We've done this kind of thing before. I rapidly realised, oh my God, there's a whole load of extra things we have to do. And there's all the clusters are coming to a close now, and there's a lot of reflection going on about what we did. Ultimately, we held money. And that money we gave out to industry to come and work with us in different ways, or just to go to invest in industry to go and work with themselves, and we kind of manage them through a process, an R&D sprint. But what we hear time and time again, actually the most valuable thing is everything else. It's the scaffolding around that, it's the networking, it's the support, it's the contact, the communications, it's enabling other things to happen. It's not just about the money that we hand out the door, but that of course is always important. So a few case studies of the things that we've done. First of all, we're trying to create an environment for experimental creative content, products, services and experience through R&D and innovation. So here's a little 2-minute show reel of some of the projects that we've enabled and the companies that we've worked with.
One of the biggest gifts in this industry is time to experiment without a pressure for an end result. It's a real blessing to have that time and that experience.
It's hugely important to have that space, the money and the time to be able to explore this technology.
We could put a pause or leave ourselves a bit of breathing room and focus in on developing this initial prototype.
Been able to put in quite a lot of time to actually take a deep dive into how to recreate physical things that we make in virtual reality. It allows us to not take a gamble with the project.
We wouldn't have been able to do this without XR Stories. And that amount of funding to invest in the time to experiment is really crucial to make new work, to innovate, to experiment.
But more than that, I think the support from the team at XR Stories has been just as crucial.
They really have been involved with the project from the very beginning. And there's also been really great collaboration in terms of them being a sounding board across industry, connecting us with other companies who are going through similar processes.
What we really found useful was their introductions to people that would eventually form our writing team.
More opportunities for interconnection, for networking, for knowing who's where and can help you with these kind of projects is absolutely the way that we can make Yorkshire the kind of powerhouse that it is.
Immersive tech is still fairly in its infancy. Being able to have projects like this where we get support, it just funds innovation.
XR are really committed to doing, working on projects like this, which I think sometimes are quite experimental and they are taking risks. I'd like to think that it will grow and it will be part of their legacy. It's not the end, this is just the beginning. To use one of Eden's quotes.
So some of those projects are quite old now, but they've all had a significant legacy. So the Telltale Rooms that Andrew and Eden have done, who are very well established artists in their own right before they ever came to us, but they work with a Yorkshire film company called Tyke Films. They've never done anything like working in the very traditional documentary filmmakers, and they wanted to kind of get involved with second screen content and immersive content. So we helped form that partnership, and the Telltale Rooms is touring the work that Pilot had done. Lucy from Pilot, that's been touring internationally. It's called Monoliths. And Studio Maguire, I just saw last night, who are a tiny company, 2 people, based on the east coast of Yorkshire have now got a big immersive projection thing going on in Bristol. I saw yesterday on LinkedIn. So yeah, some of our small companies have gone on to better things, thankfully. So that's a sort of snapshot of what we do and how we do it and how we work with partners. We also try and develop long-term strategic partnerships between creative businesses, larger companies, universities and other stakeholders. So we've called these our challenge projects. And one of the ones we worked on was with Sky. And we've done this with some sort of big ticket organisations a number of times, but this is a particularly interesting one. There's a bit of audio in here as well. Sky Glass, that you've probably all now sort of seen, they brought out a piece of hardware which is similar to, but not as good as the Microsoft Kinect, for those who remember such things, to allow interaction with your television content. And so we got early access to that device before it was released and an opportunity to test it. And so the way that we did that is we set a challenge. Sky sort of managed the whole thing. We then developed and supported companies through an innovation sprint. 4 companies we worked with over the course of a year. Each of them were given some content from IP, from Sky, some of Sky's IP, to work with to develop novel, interesting, innovative things that they could do with the technology that Sky themselves might not have the opportunity to develop themselves. It was, again, hugely beneficial for Sky. They got a lot of value out of the project, a lot of opportunities to test their hardware in different ways. And it was hugely beneficial for some of the companies they work with for setting up connections with Sky and then beyond, and how they get access to the technology and access to the IP that they work with. So here's an example of one of the projects, which was the Tom Gates project. Tom Gates, cartoon character, and they developed an interactive to be played on your television, which is a bit like interactive Beat Saber, for those who know sort of Beat Saber. And this was the sort of day when we were in Sky offices in London, and they brought lots of people down to jump in front of the television to see it.
Get ready to play. 3, 2, 1, go.
Raise your hands if you want to sing. Sing it now so I can hear it. Everyone, can you feel it? Join with us so they can cheer you. It's your time. Are you ready to shout it out?
So there's an interesting place that the university has as the broker here between big technology company, big content creation company, and small companies in our region. And one of these projects, we've bolted on some of our researchers who worked with Sky and the SME that they were working with to think about accessibility in terms of designing content for this device. So, and they did that through audio, obviously. So it was a way that we could then add value to the project and make Sky think harder about how they develop the technology for the widest audiences that they would want to capture. And we've done these challenge projects now 4 times. We did it with Warner Media, we did it with Sky, we did it with the National Science and Media Museum in Bradford, and we've just done it with ITV. Surely you all saw the headline, which was Emmerdale goes into the metaverse in the Sun. You know, we had very much arrived at that stage. But that was about, again, Emmerdale wanting to diversify their audiences, target younger audiences and think about new content. So that's some of the smaller projects we've done, some of the bigger projects we've done, how we broker relationships, but we also do work in terms of skills. And I've talked a little bit about at the start, or a few slides ago, about how we develop programs to get people using immersive technology in their practice for the first time. Here's an example of one of the programs we ran, which was our immersive accelerator, and I'll let the participants talk about it themselves. And there's a very stilted bit of me talking to camera at the end.
So we're going to start off this morning with a little bit of a demo on 3D modeling, and then we're going to do a presentation on immersion.
The Immersive Digital Accelerator is an XR Stories development programme, and it's funded by the European Regional Development Fund.
Accelerators provide support to small businesses through training, mentoring and face-to-face meetings. They provide access to technical resources, expertise and facilities.
It'll provide training for women and marginalised genders in the Leeds City region, and they will be able to make compelling extended reality experiences.
I think it's been really useful to be with such a diverse cohort. I'm from a working class background, I'm part of the LGBTQI+ community. You've got people with those backgrounds and those lived experiences, hearing the ideas that they've got and then the ideas that I've got and mixing them up and influencing each other.
It's given me ideas of what I can do with my business
that I thought I'd have to hire other people, so now I can do it in-house.
A part of what we're doing is giving people confidence, giving them skills, and encouraging them to understand that it is possible.
They just automatically start picking up the language, they start thinking different, it starts to change the way they see the world.
I've made something that I never thought I'd have the capabilities to make.
From weaving in XR into our storytelling process and experiences, to also looking at how we can use it as a tool to quickly prototype ideas, has just been incredible. Just a whole multitude of ways I think it's going to influence our work.
To come into this environment and have people so willing to give you their time, expertise and their ideas has been really, really useful.
It's really opened my eyes beyond the world of film specifically, which is where I came into this from.
We do know that these opportunities are out of reach for a lot of people. The Immersive Accelerator programme is enabling women and underrepresented groups in our region's creative industries to develop new skills and, importantly, new connections.
For me personally, it's been fantastic, but also from the business point of view, it puts us in a much better position to understand where we're going and to accelerate our growth.
In upskilling our underrepresented groups, we're promoting new voices, new ideas, and we're championing an industry-wide shift in perceptions to embrace the increased opportunities for innovation and growth that will arise from different voices, stories and input.
The organisations that we support can leverage our accelerator programmes to help workforce and business development and so deliver economic growth with social and cultural impact.
It makes you see that there might be different avenues that you could go in this really exciting emerging wild west of a new sector.
So very good, some lives transformed through some of the work we've done. Yeah, so that's some of the outward facing work we do, both with individuals and companies, but we did do some of our own research. We had PhD studentships, we had researchers who worked on developing content through more traditional means. So here's the audio bit. So here are some of the PhDs that we've supported over the last few years. And these were done in collaboration with BBC R&D, friends of yourselves, I know, and Bang & Olufsen. And we had two, and these are really thinking about very sort of top level, what is the future of XR audio experiences, whether that's VR or AR, augmented reality or something else. And so we worked with a project that was thinking about how do we design new audio experiences based on multiple connected devices. And we worked on a set of design rules that should be enabled or thought about to enable designers and sound designers to think about how you work with such devices. And from that, then we've tested it in various contexts. And we've just done an experiment, which we're just writing up, which is looking at how we think about personalized and shared audio generally watching television through using hearables or earbuds as a means of delivering specific person-focused content on top of what you get from a television, which might be accessibility related, but it might also be about the content, might be focusing on one thing or another. We've done a project on whether we can measure whether somebody is immersed in an experience or not. Again, we thought of this from the perspective of audio and audio visual. So we've looked at different sort of immersive audio formats and how we can measure whether someone's immersed via questionnaires or whether we can do it remotely using a camera-based system. So you can't just see it, but here within the sort of the ring light there is a camera, and that can track the heart rate of the individual and facial actions, and we can encode those facial actions and that heart rate and map it against the questionnaire data to see if we can remotely tell if an individual is feeling immersed or not. Typically the best way is to ask them at the end, were you immersed? And they go yes or no. But we could then potentially extend this to large audiences rather than just doing it on an individual basis. We've also done some work, again, thinking a little bit about hearables and how they're transforming our lives and how they're kind of ubiquitous, about this idea of auditory bubbles. How does external soundscape factor or influence listener engagement when we're listening to particular content? In particular, we focused on podcast and spoken word based material. And so we're thinking here now, what are the distractors that are around us in our day-to-day lives, and how do they influence what we listen to and how we choose what we listen to, and also the devices that we use to listen to that content with. So again, we're just doing some experiments now on transparency modes, on hearables, and how they might change or influence this balance between our auditory bubble and our content that we personally are auditioning on a daily basis as we walk through the world, and then the exterior distract us from that. So that's another area that we've been working in, and how this all might influence the future of XR audio experiences. And then my colleagues Gavin and Helena, Gavin Kearney and Helena Daffner, have been working on a particular area called network music performance, and how we build opportunities for musicians or performers to interact remotely together in real time over some kind of version of the internet. And there are various ways that that can make itself manifest in terms of training and educational experiences, rehearsal experiences, proper musical interaction over the internet. And so there's technical challenges to solve there, and there's also the challenges of how we respond to one another when we're performing in those contexts. So there's a whole bunch of projects that they've been working on over the last few years. Some of it is what they call acoustic digital twinning, so going in and taking lots of acoustic measurements in a space so that we can build a virtual digital acoustic twin of that space. This is, I think, one of the studios at Maida Vale. And then for those who may have been at the AES conference in Huddersfield last year, they did an amazingly ambitious experiment, a live performance that was streamed between Huddersfield and York. So there's an audience in York, much smaller than the one in Huddersfield that you can see here. And it was an 8-part choir where 4 of the choir were in the studio in York, 4 of the choir were in the performance hall in Huddersfield, and then the others were represented by 4 loudspeakers. And they did a lot of audience engagement and tracking and sort of assessment. So let's have a little bit of the Huddersfield performance. And it was, tremendously successful, and it was a very ambitious project for them to develop and deliver. And it's particular PhD students' work actually in terms of the technical backbone to enable that. But Gavin and Helena are exploring it in lots of different contexts. Another example of that is how we perform and interact in virtual reality. So they've built a digital twin of the main Maida Vale recording studio, which you see here, and they built it in virtual reality, and they've motion captured a whole band and recorded their performance and built avatars. And they're interested in, well, how do we engage with avatars versus real people? Obviously, if you can get by with an avatar, then you're reducing the bandwidth of what you need to transmit over your internet or connected sort of system much over live film. So they're exploring how we interact in virtual reality as well, and hybrid models of this. As I say, there's a number of possible scenarios where this might emerge, and one, Helena wants me to do the plug, the Sapphire project that they're working on at the moment. 25th of April, you can go and sing with the BBC singers. There's a capture of your performance alongside them, which will then be integrated into a concert for the centenary of the BBC, which I think is going up in October. So that's an example of some work that's very, very current and has helped to influence what we're doing next. So we've done lots of economic impact analysis on our work. We've got lots of people to measure what we've done in different ways, more than the ways we'd normally measure for an academic research project. So XR Stories has made a contribution to Yorkshire and Humber's economy. Evidence there's 6.6 million increase in revenue for the companies that we've worked with, and 543 jobs created or maintained, and has become a leading centre for R&D in our region, which is something that we can be very proud of. So here's another snappy up-tempo video of what we've done, summarising some of the results of the project, and in terms of economic impact, I guess, and then where we're going next.
XR Stories committed to projects like this, which I think sometimes are quite experimental, and they are taking risks.
Being able to have projects like this where we get funding and support, it just funds innovation.
Just to have the opportunity to come in and play with tech that is just not accessible to us, it's just been incredible.
One of the biggest gifts in this industry is time to experiment without a pressure for an end result.
We really felt like we had the room to explore and really research and develop this project.
This project was only made possible because of the funding we got from XR Stories.
It's a regional drive to push innovation. That's a rare opportunity, but we're getting it here in Yorkshire.
So it's, some big numbers there, it's fair to say, and I think any of the clusters projects have done similarly very, very well, and they've been a success story for AHRC and for government, which is a good thing. But I think that the ones that have been most successful is where they've instigated some kind of change, both in the place that they are and also the university as part of that. I remember in the early days of winning the project, and everyone was very, very happy, and I'm kind of there saying, the money's not for us, really. It's money's got to go out to the door to sort of make a difference in our region, and that's a tough sell at universities sometimes, but I think we've changed the institution slightly, he said, hopefully, as a consequence over the last few years. And our role in our place in our region is changing as a result, and that's very important. So XR Network Plus is the project. So XR Stories comes to an end formally end of March. XR Network Plus is the follow-on. It's an EPSRC funded project under the Digital Economy Programme before they killed it. Well, never mind. And it's to do what we've done on XR Stories at a national level, and it's a partnership between 5 of the clusters projects, all interested in this technology called virtual production, which we might also want to think of as being convergent media and the next generation of content, really. In terms of virtual production, that's what it's known as in the film industry. It's the technology that enabled The Mandalorian to be made. It's what gives you a virtual green screen based studio that takes the BBC to Tokyo when they couldn't go to Tokyo for the Olympics due to COVID. It's new live performances here. This is done another lockdown project by the Royal Shakespeare Company. And the big poster child of this technology at the moment is the ABBA Voyage experience. Anyone been to see it? No? Well, I've done that. It is amazing. Even when you know how it's done, you're going to go, that's absolutely remarkable. But anyway, so this is where the technology and the experiences are going, and our project is about trying to provide a research backbone to some of this, university-led, working with industry in different contexts. And yeah, in the film world, it's known as virtual production, but in more engineering, so the technology world, it might be convergent media, it might be Web 4.0, whatever language you want to put around it, is what this content is going to be in the future as we bring the digital and the physical together. So that's one project that we're working on. The other project that we're working on is CoStar. And CoStar is, again, a big sort of £76 million investment in infrastructure to support creative industries R&D by the AHRC across the UK. And there are 5 labs that are being established. There's the National Lab, which has emerged out of Royal Holloway and the NFTS and Pinewood in sort of south east. There is the Real-Time Lab, as it's called, which is in Abertay. The games cluster that I've already mentioned. There is the Screen Lab, which is emerging out of Ulster, and then there's the Foresight Lab, which is working on data for creative industries, which is led by Goldsmiths. And then there's the Live Lab, which is led by the University of York, my colleagues Gavin and Helena. And one of the challenges of this project was you had to co-locate with industry. Couldn't do it on campus. And so we've co-located with Production Park, which is just outside of Wakefield, in West Yorkshire. And Production Park, anyone heard of it? No, of course you haven't. That's where Beyonce goes to rehearse before she goes on tour. It's where Lady Gaga goes to rehearse before they go on tour. It's where Metallica go to rehearse when they're touring Europe. Big touring acts rock up in trucks in this industrial estate on a disused mining village outside of Wakefield and practice their tours. Because they've got massive studios there where they can build a stage, they can work out the logistics, check the software control systems, and then pack it all up and send it on the road. So it's a little bit of a hidden jewel in Yorkshire. And whenever you go and visit them, they say, no, we can't say who's on site today. And then a roadie goes past with a flight case saying Lady Gaga on the side or something like that. But yeah, so it's quite a useful thing to have in our backyard, almost backyard. It's about 45 minutes to get there if the A1 is kind. This is what Live Lab is going to be about.
The CoStar Live Lab will redefine the future of live performance. It combines University of York expertise with industry leaders from the creative sector.
Together, we will create immersive, multisensory and interactive technologies. Our lab is located at Production Park, Europe's largest campus of companies dedicated to innovation in live performance.
In the coming year, we will build new experimental virtual production spaces dedicated to live performance and immersive user experience, all supported by Vodafone's expertise in cutting-edge networking technologies.
And with Screen Yorkshire, Wakefield Council, and York and North Yorkshire Local Enterprise Partnership, we're going to launch our Access programme.
We will incubate startups, train future technologists, and empower diverse voices and new talent across the sector.
The CoStar Live Lab will be shaped by you. Whether you're an SME, a creative practitioner, a production company, or a live venue, share your challenges and help us secure a rewarding and sustainable future for the creative industries in the north of England and the UK.
There's a big, exciting, challenging project that's about 5 months in at the moment. You know, we've got our own live lab partnership to manage, and then we're part of an infrastructure of 4 other labs all around the UK, all funded by the same media, by the same stream of funding, all designed to work together to be complementary to one another and to be a shop window for the UK creative industries R&D in screen and live performance. And that's 6 years of funding to support that. So there's a long way to go yet. And next week we're all decamping, all of us from all the labs are decamping down to our friends at Surrey, who are part of the national lab for a week of working out how we're going to make it all work. So that's for the future, but that has been XR Stories. It has been, as they say, a journey. And I'm very happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Have any questions in the room? I'll just see if there's any questions online.
So for the research part of thing, how do you measure success? I know you've got your numbers for the industry, and it's great that they've all done really well out of it.
Yeah.
But when you've got something like your PhD projects, have you got a way of saying, you know, maybe we'll do this bit differently with XR Stories National, or no, that was the right way of doing that? Have you had a chance to sort of?
Yeah, it's a good question, Duncan. All the time, all the way through the project, it was made very, very clear to us that economic growth was the measure of success. And it was because of this thing here, the industrial strategy, and this figure of co-investment. And we, you know, I've worked on big university research projects before, as you know well, Duncan. There's been nothing quite like this in terms of how we've had to report and to evidence and to constantly all the way through. And it's about building a case for what comes next and saying that this has worked. And so we were always told it's about economic growth, about economic growth. You know, there's a lot of personal stories of success that are built through that. You know, we did, I guess, you know, it's probably more the case now that our PhDs from the audio lab are industry embedded. We usually have an industry partner on most of our PhDs now. And that was absolutely written in stone for this. Every PhD that we had, which were all University of York supported, they weren't funded by HRC. You can't draw down funding for PhDs from this programme, but the University of York sort of lent its support in that way. And so we've certainly added value to their projects by giving them an industry context. And they've still done great PhD work. You know, the network music performance is an example of a particular PhD project that's come from that. So yeah, that's fundamentally important. We've got this, you know, 129 publications out of all the work that's been done. Great, you know, that's a measure of, again, in personal success for the individuals who, you know, put that work out into the world. And I guess then there's the legacy of the project. And one of the things that I think all the clusters have been very mindful of is that there's a massive investment that's gone into your region via these projects, and then it stops. What happens then? And so we've all worked very, very hard to make sure that there is something that follows on. And so in terms of that longer term support for our researchers and what they do, and our PhD students and our staff, then things like CoStar and XR Network Plus are very important. And of course, really, what we're also trying to do is build more opportunities for our students. So, this is all kind of, research level, top level university stuff. But the more things that we do, the more it does trickle down into our day-to-day practice and the programs we do, and the experience we can offer and the connections we have, particularly in industry, that then students can turn into placement years, internship opportunities. We've got a good option now with a lot of the industry partners we work with, write us briefs that go into dissertation projects for master students and undergraduate students. So it's building those connections and providing more opportunities for our students. So, it trickles down and does have an impact all through everything we do, I think. But, our betters, as it were, want to see the big figures in terms of jobs and that there's no doubt about it. We have transformed some companies through the investment and support we've given them, and that's tremendously satisfying. Outside of, I never thought I'd be talking about jobs maintained and economic growth and all that kind of thing, but it does leave quite an impact, I think. So, good question, Becky.
Do you think the success of something like this shows that academia needs to be moving away from the more kind of traditional setup? I mean, I know you've got like publications and stuff, but it's not, we did a nice experiment and we wrote a paper about it anymore. It's again another interesting and challenging question. None of the clusters programs would have been successful if they didn't have the research track record behind them to start with. So you've got to have that, new knowledge, supporting the next generation of your industry, whatever that might be, supporting the growth of individuals, and sort of some context that sits in, an industry context, a real world context. All of that's fundamentally important. Without that, then the rest of it kind of falls down. So we couldn't just we're not just an economic development project. We're not just about pushing money into industry. It's about the university's role in that, and the university's role in that is fundamentally through new knowledge, education and research. So that's fundamentally important. And that's why, I had to put some audio projects in there to say, look at some of the basic day-to-day stuff that we've done. It's really important. We're, generating the next generation of audio labbers that might well come to Salford and all the rest of it. In fact, some of our PhD students are ex-Salford MSc students who've come to us. So there's a good connection, we can never get away from the fact that the research is the foundation on which everything else is built. Otherwise, it's just pushing money out the door. But we're pushing money out the door with expertise and a track record and trust and all the things that are really important when you build collaborative projects.
Another question? Does anybody else have a question? Okay,
sorry, I was going to ask, thanks for the presentation. Does this project have any scope for like communication with schools, like colleges? Because as I was watching, I was thinking that's like a great initiative. I remember being in sixth form, I had both an interest in that creative industry and music, but I studied maths and physics. I think there was quite sort of a tension with that, where advice in school would be like, you sort of go towards these kind of technical subjects, and it wasn't really presented as a way of opportunity in life. So maybe there's an issue there.
Yeah, I can sympathise with that. That's the background that I had. I guess back then, probably there wasn't maybe the dividing line as much as there was, or there seem to be now. We haven't done much schools work. We've done a lot of outreach work through things like we've got a big festival in York called Festival Ideas, and as most, what didn't quite come through in the upbeat videos is that we've got a new lab in the city centre now, which is a XR technology and immersive virtual production lab where you can come and do motion tracking stuff and all that kind of thing that we've seen. And so we opened the doors to like kids and their parents to bring their toys in, and then we would capture the toy, animate them, and the child would direct them in some kind of performance, and then we render the whole thing out, and they'd go home with a little video of their favourite toy doing something that they wanted them to do because they were being film directors for the day. So yeah, there's definitely
an important role that we have to make sure that we're communicating this to the wider world. So, there's no, you can't make a change without being seen, and so that's really, really important that is seen and that these opportunities are seen. I was talking to Becky about this on the train on the way over. One of the advocates for this whole programme and R&D for the creative industries at sort of government level is Sir Peter Bazalgette's. Peter Bazalgette's, I think, grandfather designed the sewage system in London, and he designed Big Brother. So different kind of, but left an impact on our lives in a different way. And Peter's great sort of tagline, which I'll borrow and credit entirely for him, is that there is a second industrial revolution coming, and it's based on STEAM. But this time it's science, technology, arts, and maths, engineering there as well. With a reflecting back to what his grandfather did, but thinking about where the industry is at the moment, and there are huge opportunities here, and we need to make sure that skills are being developed. At universities, we're doing like high-level skills. Certainly, this is a project about research skills and how research engages with industry. Yes, it trickles down into our programs at undergraduate level and our master's programs, of course, as well, but it needs to get back into schools, and there's definitely more work to be done in that area. Yeah.
Any other questions? My question was to, I'm thinking specifically about the kind of remote musical collaboration things and remote things in general. Like, to what extent was that informed by the pandemic? And to what extent was that kind of already ongoing?
Yeah, that's a good. It was already ongoing, to be fair. I don't think that the pandemic and obviously there were lots of lockdown musicians and lockdown choirs, but that was all kind of generally pre-recorded and synced up in post sort of work. This is about properly interacting with one another over an internet connection in a way that's meaningful. And my colleague Helena is a professional singer, as you will know, Mark, and she often says that we could solve many things in the world if everyone sang together. And that's what's driven that interest, really, is how you can bring singing as an experience to more people. And sometimes if you can't bring the singing experience to the participant, then you bring the participant to the singing experience in a different way. So you can do that using virtual reality. And so there's a big care homes project they're working on in Edinburgh at the moment and delivering communal singing experiences to people who are not able to get out to them themselves. And then there's lots of things that Helena will say about the data behind singing, about how two singers work together and how you can measure that in various ways. And that synchronization data, you can track that in various ways just between two people singing in the analog world, and it can be used as metrics and measures when we then put them down various bits of the internet and look at how they work and perform together. So there's a lot that she would say, and I hope I've represented her work properly, about if we understand how people sing better together, then a lot of other things come out of that as well. So it wasn't just a pandemic thing. That's been in train for some time. I guess we're probably more aware of that as an opportunity now. And the fact that so much of our lives are on Zoom and Teams and what have you, how can we build more engaging experiences in that way? Another project that they've done is they did a masterclass with Jamie Cullum over 3 schools in the south east of England, and they transmitted his performance and his to the schools in a way that the students could engage with him. And that was a big challenging project to deliver live with a sort of talent. But that's one of the ways that they're pushing this work. So there's lots of ways that we can interact online. There's lots of ways we can measure it, and there's a place for engaging communities and some fundamental research to be done in both.
Thanks very much. Any other questions? No, in that case, I think we should thank Damian again.
Thank you very much for hosting me. Great to be back.
Yeah.